instead of being the $2,700 that it is, we have it for $1,500. We have 2 of them, first come, first serve. Just wanted to announce that. Also,
you can go for it. Yeah, you're good.
March 18th, we're going to have our spouses night.
Thanks, man.
We'll cater some food for you, and then we'll have
got rocks in it.
hopefully some residents from McKay and then some physicians' wives, and they'll be talking about what it's like to be married throughout medical school and residency and being a doctor. So keep that in mind as well. And then we're here from Dr. Campbell, and he's a family practice physician at McKay in the Porter Family Clinic. And yeah, give him a hand, guys.
Well, I appreciate being here again. I'd like to start out by asking you, what was your worst job ever so far? What was your worst job?
A bagger at a grocery store.
Bagger at a grocery store, okay.
Call center.
Call center. Oh yeah, that's a popular one. All right, what else?
Dishwasher.
Dishwasher. Okay, I've been a dishwasher. Wasn't ever in a call center. What else?
Concrete.
Concrete. Why?
Just rough
The
guys,
physical
rough
labor.
work.
Okay, all right. Others? This side's kind of quiet. Fast food. Okay. FedEx. All right. Others?
Cleaning out rebuilt houses.
Cleaning out what?
Rebuilt houses.
Yeah, that could be really nasty depending on what was there before.
Yeah, that'd be
All right, others? Okay, so I'm going to tell you about my worst job.
Okay, so I contacted Cubby.
So
About these.
I was accepted to college,
Wait for the cell lines.
and I had a scholarship, and so I really at that point didn't have to worry about getting college paid for. And I thought, I am going to work the rest of my life. So I think I'll take the summer off. Now I had started out working as a kid with lawn mowing and stuff like that, and I didn't ever work in fast foods, but I did work as a busboy, which also included dishwashing. So I'd done those sort of things always. It seemed like I'd always work. But if I'm always going to work, and this is the last chance to just kick back, I'm just going to kick back. My parents were amazing. They never said, get your rear out there, go do something. They just kind of let it happen. And so I read very heavy literature. I think I read every Louis L'Amour Western, usually about 4 a day. I, shot BB guns and went fishing and just played around. About 3 weeks before I went to college, I had this sudden revelation. I didn't have to worry about college as far as paying for college, and that included room and board. But I thought, what if, by chance, I happen to want to take a girl out? I don't have a dime. So at that point, 3 weeks before time to go back to school, what do you do? So my dad was vice president of Morrison Knudsen. Morrison Knudsen at the time, this is in Boise, was one of the world's largest construction companies. So Dad's vice president. This is no time for pride, right? Dad, what can you do for me? So the next day he says, I've arranged for you to be a microfilm assistant. Now, that looks pretty good, right? On your resume, microfilm assistant. So if you think back, so this is 1972. There were a lot of things that you have nowadays that didn't exist in those days, such as what? No cell phones, no computers. Well, there were computers. Okay, and MK, being a very advanced company, had computers. The computers were the size of this. Massive things, and they ran on tape, right? So a building was, a room rather, was bigger than this room, filled with these massive computers that could do less than your phone by far. So there were not practical personal computers. What else was there not? no microwave, so you couldn't just heat up your pizza real quick, right? So there were a lot of things different. So, but MK, again, being on the cutting edge, wanted to move from its system of keeping records to something more modern. What was its system of keeping records? Paper! How did you keep paper? File cabinets! Okay, so the microfilm assistant. I am escorted down to the vault, the basement vault of the world headquarters building. It's a beautiful building in Boise. And so the vault encompassed the entire size of the building. So it was the equivalent of about maybe 4 basketball courts. And it was filled from the door to the back wall with filing cabinets, metal filing cabinets. They took 2 of them that were two-drawer file cabinets, put a door across the top of it, sat me down with it, and handed me files. What did I do with the files? I wasn't the microfiche person. I was the assistant. So I had nothing to do with the technology. How did you have to prepare the files? I got to take staples out of those files for 8 hours. It was the most miserable experience I have ever had. And at the end of that 3 weeks, when I went off to school with some money for dates, what do you think I decided about work?
You wanted to do something you love.
I wanted to do something I loved, and that would never be something mindless and repetitive. It was probably the best job I ever had, because it really propelled me. So here we are now. How does that relate to being a family doctor?
See a little of everything.
So not only do I see a little of everything, but go back to the microfilm assistant. What was Tuesday like compared to Monday? Exactly the same. Absolutely no way to distinguish one day from the next, 1 hour from the next, 1 minute from the next. I wonder if I kept track of how many I could do an hour. You know, now I had a little device, right? That little high tech. Okay, so being a family doc is perfect for somebody that doesn't want to do the same thing every day. In fact, in my entire career now, over 30 years, there has never been one day like any other, ever, ever. So some people want to be, and you've heard from different docs already, some people want to be the very best possible at this wide of a subject. And I love them. I am so glad we have those. Those guys and gals are absolutely imperative to have in the system. And I'm really glad it's not me. Right? So I love surgery. And so I thought about becoming a surgeon. And in many ways, a general surgeon's life is similar to mine in that there's no 2 days alike either in that. But some types of surgery, so I love our ENTs. We have in Ogden, if you had to go see an ENT and you took a dart and opened up the phone book and threw it and hit one of the ENTs, you'd be fine. They're all great. That's not true of every specialty in any given community. There are still people who maybe you shouldn't go see that person. And oftentimes it's more personality than abilities. But ENTs, I love our ENTs. And I like doing ENT surgery too. I like doing tubes and tonsils. I don't do major neck dissections, and I don't remove thyroids and stuff like that that some of them do. But I realized even early on that as much as the OR is a blast, I didn't want to do that every single day either. Now there's one opportunity in the hospital where you get to run as hard as you can through the hospital, and it's for something good. What is it? Because most of the time if you're running in the hospital, it's really bad. But there's one thing that it's really good. It's really good.
Deliveries?
Deliveries! That's right. Now ideally you don't have to sprint through the hospital every time, But once in a while, you know, never trust a pregnant woman. Just so you know. Okay? And so sometimes you have to sprint because all of a sudden it's right now. But what a fun thing. You're running through the hospital, you run into this room, and there's somebody that you've been taking care of for months, you know really well. It's a terrific experience, and out comes this amazing experience because there is no way that kid is coming out that hole. Ever. And then all of a sudden, here he is. It's amazing every time. And they're nasty and slimy and and the mothers have this unbelievable look on their face that only the husband usually gets to see and the doc. What a priceless experience. What an incredible privilege. And what's really cool is women only deliver between 4 and 6 in the afternoon. So you never have to get up at night, you never have to go early. The clinic is always good. So doing that adds to the variety as well. And then not only do you take care of the mother, but here is this little human thing who's going to become something. And as a family doc, if you're lucky, not only are you holding this little kid when they're brand new, but you take care of them for decades after that. And you get to see them marry and have children and go through the same experience, and you think, wow, I was there when you were just so tiny. And here you are, something. It's an amazing thing. Well, of course, you've heard that there are challenges. There's lots of challenges. You're going to run into those. There's more and more government interference, and it creates great havoc in the hearts and minds of doctors. Do doctors burn out? Well, you've heard that it's almost an epidemic, right? I mean, one of the reasons you guys need to get into medical school is my generation's all going to quit, right? And they're having people that have quit from McKay with our new electronic medical record, and I haven't quit, and normally I don't get upset, and I almost never swear except since October 24th, which is when we put in iCentra, and there have been some occasional frustrations with that new system. And so there's been an occasional word that's been said that's probably not the best thing said, because by many people at McKay, and some people have quit because it's just not worth the hassle. And yet, what do I get to do? So let's just think about this week. So here it is, Friday. Now this week I only worked yesterday and today. So a small vignette. So what have we seen in the past 2 days? Well, we've seen people with high blood pressure. That's a common problem. Is that very exciting? Well, yes and no. I mean, high blood pressure, how do you know if somebody has high blood pressure? You take their blood pressure. Is that reliable? I didn't say is it accurate. Is it accurate? Should be accurate. I mean, you can have crummy equipment and it can be wrong, but if your equipment's good, it should be accurate. Is it reliable? Meaning what? So let's say, so what's normal blood pressure?
120 over 80.
Under 140 over 90, right? Okay, so I come in to see you, and you're in the clinic, and I've never seen you before, and I sit down, and I'm kind of nervous because I have to tell you about some blood in my stools, and I know that could be kind of scary, so I'm a little nervous. So the nurse takes the blood pressure, and my blood pressure is 150 over 92. Well, but I don't want to be in your office for an hour, because if you make me take it an hour later, I know it's going to be high, because I don't want to be there. Right? But your idea is right, in that one reading means almost nothing, right? And there's a concept called white coat hypertension. It means your blood pressure goes up because you're in the doctor's office. Now, I'm sure it's worse in the dentist's office, right? And good dentists do take blood pressures, and occasionally I'll get a call or a referral from the dentist saying, this is what I got. So if I'm wondering if you truly have high blood pressure and your numbers, you've been in 2 or 3 times, and each time it's high. will I start you on a blood pressure medication? Will some doctors? Absolutely, lots of doctors, lots of good doctors will say, here I have 3 readings, and they're all from the office and they're all high, so I need to put you on blood pressure medicine. And so we start you on blood pressure medicine, and now you call me back in a week later and say, doctor, I can't stand up because every time I do, I pass out. So what happened? So your blood pressure wasn't really high in the first place, and I gave you a drug, now it's too low, and now you're going to pass out. Okay, so how could I get readings that really reflect what your blood pressure is?
I'm good.
I could do some labs. Well, that'll give me different chemistries, but it won't tell me at all what your blood pressure is. Yeah.
Ask the patient to like do readings daily for a week and come back.
So home readings are very valuable. How many do you want?
Maybe 1,
2 weeks worth.
Okay, so there's not a right answer, but as far as a number, but the right answer is as many as I can get, right? And so let's say you take 100 readings for me. What do I want out of that? Do I want to look at all 100 of those? I want the average. That's right. I want to know kind of what your blood pressure does over time, because it fluctuates up and down, all of us. If you had a 24-hour reading, it would not be a straight line. It would be a curve, there'd be a diurnal curve to it, but there'd also be all these little jerks up and down, right? You have to run at the bus, the professor yells at you, your girlfriend says, get lost. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that makes your blood pressure go up and down. And I only want to treat it if that average is up here, because it's the average over time that's the problem. If your blood pressure is too high over time, it does bad things to you, like what? You heard it's bad, what does it do? So your heart disease, so if you could clone 2 people, clone a person, so now we have 2 of this person A, and one of them has blood pressure that's 20 points too high, and the other person's the same, and otherwise they're identical and we watch them over time, who dies first? The one with high blood pressure. And probably he dies of a heart attack earlier. Because the most common thing that kills us is heart disease, right? What's the mortality rate? Oh, just general, what's the mortality rate? 100%! Every one of you is doomed, right? You are all going to die. And one of the funny things about medicine is there's all kinds of literature that points out, well, we're decreasing the mortality rate from this. No, we're not! It's always 100%. So what we're trying to do, ideally, is help you to live as long as you can, as good as you can, with as much control over your life as we can give you. That's kind of cool. So the reason I'm suggesting I treat your high blood pressure is because bad things can happen to you that aren't even necessarily going to kill you, but will make your life worse. So you could have heart disease from that. Now the most common type of heart disease from hypertension is not a heart attack. It's heart failure, so that your pump isn't working as well. And if your pump doesn't work as well, your energy goes down, your lungs fill up with fluid, your legs get all swollen. It's not a fun thing. It has a far worse prognosis than cancer, and it's miserable on top of it. So we'd like to avoid that. High blood pressure can also screw up your kidneys, so now your kidneys don't work. That's not good. It can also contribute to other arterial problems such as vision and so on. So high blood pressure is a problem. And yet it's kind of just rudimentary. We take care of it every day, lots of times. We look at numbers, we look at drugs. So here's another thing about drugs. So a family doc writes thousands of prescriptions a year. So medications are very important. Do medications work? Good answer. Sometimes yes. So there's a concept that is often seen in literature, even just the newspapers, Newsweek and so on, that is termed the risk-benefit ratio. Have you guys heard that? So the risk-benefit ratio is really improperly named, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but risk-benefit has to do with trying to figure out if the good of something outweighs the bad of something. And if I give you a medicine, So let's say you come in with a headache. There's nothing really wrong with you, you just kind of have a muscle tension headache, but it's bothering your studies and we want to try something. So I give you an anti-inflammatory, I give you ibuprofen and say, here, take this. So what are the potential risks and benefits? Before we talk about that though, it's really a misleading thing to call it the risk-benefit, because if I say risk-benefit, it suggests that there is a chance of risk and a guarantee of benefit. Is that accurate? So it really should be the harm-benefit ratio. The risk of harm versus the risk of benefit. So I've given you ibuprofen. What's the potential benefits? Headache goes away, right? So you do better in school, that's a good thing. What's the potential harms? So it can do stuff, anti-inflammatory drugs can do stuff to you that's not good. It can irritate your stomach, it can even cause ulcers and bleeding. It can harm your kidneys. However, if we're talking intermittent use, occasional use, neither of those are very likely. So is there any harm to the drug? If you have an allergy, that would be bad. Yep, that was true. But you don't have an allergy. So is there a harm? Because here's the trick, there's always a harm. Always a harm. What's the always harm, if nothing else?
Money.
It costs you money. Exactly right. Well, it doesn't cost me very much. Well, very much is still more than nothing. So if you prescribe somebody a medication that say their insurance covers at $5 a month, so in a year that's 60 bucks. Would you rather spend 60 bucks on a medicine that does you no good, or go out to dinner and a movie for 60 bucks, right? I mean, it's always a harm if there isn't a clear benefit. So we have to deal with harms and benefits for high blood pressure. So let's say that you come in as a guy and you're 30 years old and your blood pressure is 160 over 100. And we've done it at home, that's what it really is. We've had this discussion and you've decided that you agree with me that it's not good for you to have that high blood pressure, we should do something about it, and I put you on a drug. What do you want to know about the drugs? Here's your drug. What do you want to know from your doctor? Side effects. Now that's a curious word, isn't it? What does side effect mean? Effects that are off to the side. Here's the main, here's the side. That's not what it means.
Something that occurs outside of the scope of what the medication is intended to do.
So that's an excellent description. But, so what he said was it's the effects that occur that are not in the aim of the med. And that's exactly right. But side effects are just effects of the drug that I don't like, right? But they're just effects. So the reason we call them side effects is that's not what we're after. And again, it helps us to do that harm-benefit thing. Because if the side effects exceed the benefits, we don't want to stay on it. And that's true for everything you do. You can actually look at that harm-benefit. Why are you in class right now? Not this class, but why are you in your hardest class right now? Why are you in it? Somebody made you do it? Okay, so there's a potential benefit to you, right? Getting into medical school. What's the harm? Sanity can be that. Definitely should take time, right? What else does it do? Costs money, right? So the benefit should exceed the harm, because there are negatives to everything. If I send you to a physical therapist to help your shoulder get back, there are always